The views expressed on the Warren and Bradley Show are not necessarily those held by the hosts, Warren and Bradley, nor those of the proprietors of the website, warrenandbradley.com.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire!
Let's make some magic.
It is magic time. Hello, and welcome once again to the Warren and Bradley Show. I am one of your hosts, Bradley Victor.
And the other host, Warren Van.
You sounded a little hesitant about making magic this week, Warren. Are you unsure that magic could be made?
Here in the studios, we were having a little bit of an issue.
Technical difficulty.
Yeah. So I was a little concerned that maybe the magic wouldn't occur right off the bat.
As I'm also the show engineer, I have to divide my attention between this highly technical job and also entertaining.
Yeah, that's why I just focus purely on entertaining. That's why everything I say is so entertaining.
All right, let's start the show off with a few things. Right off the bat.
Yeah?
I was somewhere today. Guess where I was?
Oh, jeez. I was going to say, you were at the bagery.
I was.
You were at the bagery.
And I had an encounter with somebody.
Yeah.
I was sitting at the bar seating, as I've mentioned before.
Yes.
We'll get that schematic up online at some point where people can actually understand this. Anyway, I was sitting at the bar on like a high stool, and I noticed a group come in. There was a young woman who had a guy with her who I could tell was probably developmentally disabled. And I didn't know if she was a relative or someone who was his caretaker, you know, like going around with him, taking him out and about. And I didn't know for sure until she told him to go get another chair for their table.
Yeah.
And they were sitting at a lower table, which takes shorter chairs.
Yes.
And he came over right next to me and grabbed one of the very high stool-type chairs and was going to bring it over and bring it to the table. So I looked over at her to see if she was aware of the fact that he was grabbing the wrong chair, but she didn't seem to be paying any attention. So in order to be helpful, I said, "Hey, I don't think that chair will fit. I think you might want to get that chair." And I pointed to a shorter chair.
Yeah.
And he went into complete and utter freak-out Rainman mode.
Yeah.
He was holding onto the chair and started shaking. And he looked at me and just went, "Ah!" And like just got louder and louder and louder. And I was like, oh, God, oh, no. And I looked over at this woman who's supposed to be taking care of him.
Yeah.
Again, not paying any attention. She was like talking on her cell phone or something. So I have a developmentally disabled man freaking out, holding, like, white-knuckling the back of this chair and just shaking and shrieking. I cannot believe that this woman isn't paying any attention to it. So I'm like, oh, God, what do I do? What do I do? Now, take this in the spirit in which it's intended. I don't mean anything by this, but I had been watching a lot of The Dog Whisperer recently because, I don't know, I long for having a dog, and so I watch things about dogs all the time. And I love The Dog Whisperer. It's hilarious. And so all of a sudden Cesar Millan popped up in my head, and he's like, "You've got to be the pack leader. You've got to be calm and assertive." Yeah. And so I got up out of my chair and started doing like the dog whisperer body language, where I was like, with like shoulders back, squared, not a stern look or angry look on my face, but a very confident, assured, calm look. Yeah. And I just put my hands up, and I sort of like, it was like I was blocking off the space in front of the chair. And I didn't do the psst thing to him, but it was basically that.
Nice
like the gesture. I was like, hey, hey, hey. And he started calming down. And so then I used my body and my calm, assertive energy, as Cesar Millan would say, and I backed him away from the chair and then gestured towards the other chair. And basically he started following all my hand movements. He calmed down. Yeah. I got him to get the chair that he should take, and he went and brought it back to the table. Yeah. So the methods that Caesar uses on hyperactive or disobedient dogs work very well on developmentally disabled people.
But what method should people use to have you mind your own fucking business and not get...
I was trying to be helpful.
Don't be helpful. You're not helping.
Well, he would have brought the weird chair back.
That's fine.
I know, but that's... Okay, so I didn't know at what level his mental capacity was at. Yeah. He seemed fairly high functioning. And so I didn't
But he was low functioning enough for you to tell when he walked into the building that he was
Well,
DD.
it was like, I can't quite tell.
Oh, jeez.
But when he came over and grabbed the chair, I didn't think it would be any big deal to be like, oh, you might want to take that chair.
Yeah.
And that's all I said. And then he flipped out. And then I had to diffuse the situation using
that you've created. Yes.
Dogs. You can't blame me for that situation.
I'm going to blame you for the situation. No. If maybe a child or someone with, mental problems or something comes over, gets a chair for the table, and it's not the right size chair, but they're trying to do their little thing and do their work with it, and you're a stranger eating a bagel at a bagel shop, just let them go.
I didn't think it was any big deal. It's just try to be helpful. Because she wasn't paying any attention. She wasn't doing her job.
What was her job?
Her job was to make sure that he got the right chair and brought it back to the table.
Retarded person as a dog?
Like a harness on him or something. I don't know.
Exactly. You start treating... You interrupted a retarded person, then you start treating him like a dog.
Retarded worm.
And then now you want... What do you want? Praise for this?
I want accolades.
You want accolades for treating this handicapped person like a dog.
I think our listeners appreciate the fact that I took the situation.
It was a very noble thing that you did.
What else has been going on? I've been working lately at this horrible trailer park. This trailer park is filled with, double wides, single wides, just horribly depressing area. And the manager of the place was having us do some work there, ripping out old driveways and things like that. And just some of the most depressing people you've seen in your life are around there kind of watching us work and everything. And at one point, I was working, I had a sledgehammer, and I was pounding on some cement to break it. And this crazy, toothless old man walked up, came up to me and was like, well, what's that about, eh? No, God. Okay. So, first of all, I've got the old man watching me work, which is... I don't know what it is with little kids and old men like to watch construction people working and then make comments about what you're doing, and then you feel obligated to answer them. And not only was an old man watching me work, but he spoke in such a way that I was going to have to constantly say, what was that? Excuse me? And engage him because I couldn't just ignore him. And
I don't know. Maybe.
Well, I probably could have just ignored him. But so again, he was like, well, looks like you're working pretty hard here.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I think he said, looks like you're working pretty hard. And I said, yes, I am. Well, what was that? And basically, he was trying to tell me that I should be wearing eye protection.
Oh, that's probably good advice, actually.
Well, yeah, whatever. I never wear it.
Probably
I never wear any
helpful.
I never wear any safety gear whatsoever.
Oh, that's the best idea ever. Yeah,
never a hard hat, never any safety gear.
No.
I haven't lost an eye yet, and so I went, oh yeah, well, I've still got both eyes, and he went, and he started getting kind of angry. What was that? I'm going to wait here and watch you until you injure your eye.
Oh, good.
Okay, well, I don't think I'll be injuring my eye anytime soon. And so I started pounding away at my concrete, and, chips of cement would fly out, but none of them went anywhere near my eye. But for a good 30 minutes, he stood there.
Waiting for the eye injury. And when a particularly large and sharp shard of concrete would kind of go anywhere near me, there was a close one. And he was just waiting with this look of glee, like waiting for me to get a piece of concrete embedded into my eyeball. And then I guess his plan was to be, I told you so. Well, because eventually if it did happen, it would have been awkward for him, right? Because you're like, I'm blinded in this eye. And
I think he would have just been very satisfied.
He would have been happy and been, I told you. That's why I'm standing here watching you. He would have given me a
slow nod and a sort of I told you so look, and then he
shuffled back to his trailer.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what goes on in trailer parks, though.
I guess. There's nothing, none of those people are employed as far as I could tell.
No, for the most part, no. I think it's a lot of people on disability and stuff like that, and a lot of old people who don't work on Social Security and whatnot.
Well, I had the guy who would come out smoke and watch me work and not say anything, but then finally he offered me some soda.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, would you like a Pepsi? I was like, sure, thank you. I'll have a Pepsi. It was a warm day. I was sweating a little bit. And he came out with an old jar with Pepsi in it.
Yeah. I don't know why you said yes to this.
Yeah, well, I was hoping...
You had a fantasy that he was going to be like, bring you a can of Pepsi.
Or a bottle or something.
Yeah,
but he
not
gave
going to
me
happen.
this old mason jar with Pepsi in it. And I had to take one sip for him and then put it down. I'll be finishing that later. But again, he was eagerly just waiting for me to drink the Pepsi. And then there was another crazy guy who was really angry that we were working at his house. We were tearing out his old driveway that was just fucked and putting in a new one.
I'm sorry if that inconveniences you.
Yeah.
But he was really pissed off about it. Like, he wouldn't let me use the power in his house. He's like, are you going to pay for the bill? It'll be like 40 cents. I'm going to cut a couple boards. Oh, go find it somewhere else. And I had to, like, get a generator and all this shit. It was just ridiculous. Then poured the thing. And I put a little barrier around it afterwards to make sure nobody walked in it.
Yeah.
Came back the next day to strip the forms off, and there were these perfect footprints that somebody had put in the slab. And he came out while I was stripping the forms, and he's like, hello. Looks like you're going to have to redo this thing. No. Look, somebody walked in it. Yeah, well, I put a barrier up around it.
Yeah.
It's not my fault. There's nothing I'm going to do about it. If your manager wants to pay us to rip it out and redo it, then we will. But I'm
Seems
not going to fix
unlikely
this.
at the trailer park.
And then he was very disappointed, and I realized that he was the one who had walked through it.
Yeah.
He was damaging his own fucking driveway to somehow spite me. I don't give a shit what you do to your driveway after I finish it. I did the job. I've already been paid. It was just such a weird... what am I going to cry now or something? It's your driveway, you idiot. Now you've got footprints in it. Good job.
This is one of the issues we face as a society just in general. We have a lot of people in this country who are in poverty. And I know there's always a debate about what do we do about this poverty? And there are a lot of people on the left, perhaps, who say, well, these people are poor. They're, good people. They just need a bit of a helping hand. Then there, of course, are a lot of people on the right who are like, these people need to get a job and get to work.
Yeah.
The problem is that it's meet somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
It's people that are incapable, really, of hanging with everybody else. But it's also people that probably should get their act together a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
And I know with my work, a lot of people in these trailer parks where something's going to, right, will get something delivered to their home that's completely paid for by the state.
Right.
Delivered by my business, which they don't pay for, something that they need desperately. And will yell at the person who's delivering it to them.
It's the dog biting the hand that feeds you. It's you give them a driveway and they walk through it. If they had earned their driveway, maybe they wouldn't treat it that way. I also noticed the Schwan's truck, which I didn't even know existed anymore.
Oh, it's
this delivery service where you can get ice cream and steaks and shit. It's not any cheaper than going to the grocery store. It's actually much more expensive.
Yes. It's a luxury.
And I'm sure people need to go to the grocery store anyway, so why not just buy your carton of ice cream while you're at the grocery store?
No, it's...
But I've never seen the Schwan's truck since I was a little kid, but it was everywhere in this neighborhood, and everyone was getting their ice cream and steaks. I don't know if they take EBT cards or what.
Oh, they must. That must be it, yeah.
It was ridiculous. So these people are poor, on food stamps, probably welfare, not working, but they still have the fucking Schwan's truck come out and deliver them their ice cream.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
And that's a part where people, you're feeling a little resentment at this point, right?
A little bit.
Because, I don't have the Schwan's truck. I couldn't afford to, have my ice cream delivered to my house. It's impractical. You know what I mean? I don't make enough money to do that.
I can't believe they're still in business.
But it brings me back. I was thinking about this today because I was listening to a Planet Money podcast from NPR today, actually, when I was walking around. And they were talking about the earned income tax credit.
Yes.
Which is engineered in a way that if you work more, up to a certain threshold, you'll get more money back. So you end up getting more money than you ever would have paid in taxes.
Right.
But it's supposed to encourage people to work.
Right.
And they paid audio of a debate or a conversation between Milton Friedman and William F. Buckley about it. And Milton Friedman sort of was a proponent of this idea. He called it like a negative income tax. And he said, well, let's give people money back to work, and it'll get people working at least, and it'll be better for them that way, and it'll be better for all of us because they'll be working.
Right.
And William F. Buckley said, well, what happens when they just go to the races? And his old-timey way of saying that.
What happens?
What happens when this weird, waspy way of talking.
Such a
if
strange
people spend
accent.
their $3,000 at the races and then the next day want more money.
Yeah.
The example they were using in the podcast was this woman who actually got the earned income tax credit, and they had earlier in the story talked about how it really helped her out and stuff. But then they went back to the story, and she had apparently taken her kids to Walt Disney World on this great vacation, right?
That's nice.
Yeah, it's nice, and the kids had a great time and stuff. But it is true. It's like if you have this romanticized notion in your head of diligent working people who just can't get enough.
Yeah.
But then then it's like, here you go, here's some more, and it ends up going to the Schwan's truck or to Disney World.
It becomes a way of life. You become obsessed with gaming the system in a way when you start living that way. The same guy who was giving me the soda in the mason jar, when I had dug out the area, dug out his old driveway, he had come out and was like, "Oh, I'm surprised you don't put some tape around this because someone could fall in this hole and break their neck. You might get sued." It's 4 inches deep, It's not a big deal. And he's like, "Yeah, someone might break their neck." are you planning on falling in this hole and breaking your neck and trying to sue me? And he went, no, of course not. I mean somebody else. And I'm like, yeah. It's kind of this weird, feral, scrabbling existence where I'm going to try to take whatever I can get. And it's the system that leads people into living that kind of life and perpetuates it in a way. I don't know.
It's the problem with the ideological divide that we have in the country right now. It's like the problem is that there's a line we have to walk with this stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's like really hard to find that line where you're getting to the point where you're actually crippling people's capacity to work or desire to work and turning them into just complete dependents who are always looking for another angle to get more out of people rather than achieving in some degree, or just cutting people off and being like, you need to get to work.
Yeah, and it's hard to know. I mean, there are people who fall through the cracks who need the help and who can't support themselves, and it's hard to be able to decide, okay, this is the dividing line, these are the people,
it's very difficult.
It's tough.
So I think we as a society usually just go on the side of maybe giving out a little bit more than we probably need to in a lot of ways, just to make sure.
I think right now, definitely much more than we need to, but it's just a weird, because it would never occur to me if I fell in a hole and broke my leg. It would never occur to me to sue anybody. It just wouldn't even enter my mind. But I don't know why that is, because I'm not rich by any means. But it's like it's never occurred to me to go to the food bank. It's never occurred to me to do anything like that. But I guess if you're just kind of a part of that culture, I mean, I guess it's understandable in a way. I don't know.
Yeah, it is. But where does it go from that point where it's like, I need food, to a point where it's like, I'm not even going to bother to try to get food any other way. I'm just going to go get it for free. And that's just, and that not in the sense that that's so bad, but it's bad for just people in general to like live that way, I feel.
The only other obnoxious thing that happened to me this week was actually not a bad week. My internet went out last week when I was trying to post the latest episode.
Oh, geez.
And it's one of those things where I have a router, I have a server set up, I have all this crap that it's kind of complicated the way my internet service is structured. And so I went through this whole rigmarole of like, okay, I'm resetting my router, I'm resetting my modem, I'm checking all these settings, I'm checking my IP address, I'm checking my DNS servers, all this shit. And I couldn't find any problem on my end whatsoever. And so I was like, okay, let me see what Comcast has to offer here, knowing that probably wasn't going to do much good. But I went to the Comcast website.
Not known for their customer service.
No, not at all. And I looked up this thing, and it's like, okay, put in your account information. We'll tell you if there's been an outage in your area. It's like, okay, this is the only thing I can think of because everything on my end seems fine. So I put in my thing. They're like, oh, no outage. It shows that your service is just fine.
Yeah.
Like, well, it's not, obviously. So I called the 800 number. Was on hold for a good 42 minutes.
Yeah.
Got this woman. Yeah, welcome to Comcast customer service. Like, yes, I'm having trouble with my internet connection. What's wrong with it?
Not working.
Not getting any internet. Have you tried restarting your modem? Like,
yeah.
Yes, that's the first thing I tried. Do you have a router? Yes. Have you tried restarting that? Yes. What else have you tried? Went through a whole diagnostics thing on my network and sharing center on Windows. I checked all my settings, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to turn off your modem. I've done that. He's like, oh, try it again. Like, okay. So I turn it off. Okay, turn it back on. I turn it back on. Is it working? No, it's not working. I said I tried all this. Well, it shows that everything's fine on our end. It's like, really? Because I know they can ping the modem and they can tell if you're getting a signal and everything. And she's like, oh yeah, it's fine. It's like, okay, well, I don't know what else to do here. I thought maybe that's why I'm calling you guys to see if it's on your end. No, it's not our end, not at all. But why don't you try to turn off your modem one more time? It's like, okay. So I turn it off and turn it on. Is it working? It is now, actually. That's weird. She's like, so see, it was your end. I'm like, no, I don't think so. I think there was something fucked up, and now you just fixed it. It had nothing to do with me. And if that's the case, why pretend that it's not? Like, I don't know what was going on. It was very fishy.
That is fishy. I don't understand how the internet works, frankly.
Well,
yesterday I was on the computer. I was watching something, and it cut out. The internet cut out. I was like, oh, maybe the internet's out in the house. Who knows?
Yeah.
But then my little iPod, it worked fine. So it was just something going on with the computer. Turn the computer on and off. internet didn't work on that computer all day. I come home next day from work, it works.
Did IT guy John get
I didn't
on
get
there?
IT guy John involved. I was just like, who knows? Because it just weird
That's the
things
thing
happen.
that drives me crazy is you can, when the internet stopped working, and I guess it wasn't anything on my end, but there's been plenty of issues where I'll like get up and go to the bathroom, and then I'll come back and everything's exploding. I'm like, I haven't done anything different.
Yeah.
I haven't changed any setting. I haven't done anything at all, but it just decides to go and freak out for no reason. And then you spend hours and hours and hours resetting everything, rebooting everything, redoing all your settings. And
Which is the puzzling thing about computers, because the idea about the computer is, you think, is that if you put the same input in, you should get the same output.
that's
Everything
kind of
should
what
work
it's
the
supposed
same
to
every
be,
time,
yeah.
right?
And
But there's nothing in the world that works at such a variety of different ways as my computer does, despite the fact that I do the same exact thing to
Yeah.
it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it's slow, sometimes it's fast, sometimes weird things pop up, then they just stop randomly.
Well, and I understand quite a bit about
Yeah.
what's going on. So I know, like, okay, has there been any virus? Has there been any Trojan horse? Is there some kind of spyware or anything going on? Are there too many processes working at the same time as my CPU usage? And I check all these things, and nothing is different. Nothing has changed. I have very stringent maintenance routines that I do on the hard drive and everything. Like, everything should be fine, but it just, for some reason, I don't know if there's just this weird capricious gremlin in there that every once in a while decides to fuck things up, but it's irritating. And I
It
want
is
to
very
stop.
irritating, and it's puzzling. I know, because I look at the, your little charts and graphs. They show you how much of your CPU is
Yeah.
using all that stuff. And it's the same, but things are operating differently,
Yeah.
and things are slowing down. I'm like, why is this happening? There's
Yeah.
no explanation.
Speaking of irritating, we've been going on for a very long time, and I think it's time to take a break.
Oh, good. We got to do one of those little noise things?
Yeah, and we'll come
Okay.
back with Celebrity Minute next.
Celebrity Minute on the Warren and Bradley Show.
Celebrity Minute, take two.
Yes, apparently
God damn it!
we did a Celebrity Minute, and it did not record.
We need an engineer. I can't do all this by myself. It's just tearing me apart.
So how do we know it's recording now? Because that red button's on?
Yeah, there's
Okay,
red- there's
good.
red
We're
shit
recording.
going.
Recording test.
We are recording. Okay. The first story this
Yes.
week. Are you aware of the rapper Rick Ross, Warren?
I am now.
Rick Ross apologizes for pro-rape lyrics. This is from the Huffington Post. A day after Reebok ended its relationship with Rick Ross, the rapper acknowledged that his lyrics on Rocco's song UOENO were offensive. In a statement Friday, Ross said being a musician is a great responsibility and that his choice of words in the song does not reflect my true heart. In the song, Ross raps about giving a woman the drug MDMA, also known as Molly, and having his way with her.
Yeah, that's rape, all right.
We looked up the lyrics of this song here. Let's see if I can recite some of these. So this was a joint between Rocco and Rick Ross.
Yeah, this is how rap songs work. For people that aren't as urban as me and Brad, you get like people to feature on your tracks,
Yes.
and then you get on your cuts, and then people like come in and start rapping.
So here is the intro.
Okay,
UOENO it. Ol' high class niggas. This shit sound crazy. Fly shit only. You know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Here's the
definitely.
hook. This is $1,000 pair of shoes, and you don't even know it. This is $1,000 cup of lean, and you don't even know it. This is a $500,000 car. You don't even know it. I came up from bottom. You don't even know it. My niggas all ride with me on. You don't even know it. Got killers with me right now. You don't even know it. This $1 million watch, nigga. You don't even know it. Got $1 million crib, nigga. You don't even know it. So apparently this is a man who is proud of the monetary gains that he's made in his life, and he's trying to point out to the other niggas that they don't even know how rich he is, even though he does have a $500,000 car, $1 million crib.
again, people that aren't as familiar with rap as Brad and I are might not know, but
There's a lot of
many
subtext. A lot of subtext.
Many rap songs are people talking about how rich they are.
Yes. So there's another verse that Rocco sings, but
Yes.
the controversial verse that Rick Ross sings, that nigga sold you that re-rock. You ain't even know it.
Yeah.
I die over these Reeboks. You ain't even know it. Put Molly all in her champagne. She ain't even know it.
Yeah.
I took her home, and I enjoyed that. She ain't even know it. So what he's saying there is that he slipped a roofie into a young woman's drink, took her home, and copulated.
It's implied, but not explicitly stated.
Well, it doesn't explicitly say.
It could have been that he slipped her MDMA and then took her home and put her to bed.
And enjoyed the fact that she was enjoying the MDMA.
That she was safe.
Yeah, that she was safe in bed and that she wasn't going to be subject to sexual assault by anyone else. Even though the fact that he was the one who slipped the Molly and she ain't even know it, I would assume that he was the one who might possibly take advantage of
I'm going to call these allegations against Rick Ross racist.
I think
because
they are.
People are assuming that he sexually assaulted this person.
I guess the fact that he did mention Reeboks in the lyric is probably why Reebok decided to no longer have him
that's true, isn't
shoes.
it?
Yeah.
The line right before he talks about raping someone, he mentions the shoe company that he has an endorsement contract with.
We've talked about before the fact that people, decide to get really offended by things. Obviously, I could see how this could be offensive, but why they decided to choose this one, I guess the fact that there was a monetary thing involved where he lost an endorsement deal, that's why it came to somebody's attention. But every one of these fucking songs is filled with shit like this.
I know. So much violence. We talked about in our youth, there's a lot of things about killing police officers and stuff.
Cop killer.
And these people are all considered elder statesmen of hip hop now. And it's all of that stuff about killing police officers. That's fine, but apparently this is crossing the line too far.
I think it'd be more refreshing if it was something that I could relate to more, like, I drive a 2001 Ford Ranger. You ain't even know it. I live in a studio apartment. You ain't even know it.
I'm so desperately, desperately lonely. You don't even know it.
You ain't.
Oh, sorry. That was racist of me. I apologize.
Next story. Pippi Longstocking actress arrested on assault charges. This is from MSN.com. There was this movie in 1988, The New Adventures of Pippi Longstocking, or The Adventures of Pippi Longstocking, or Pippi Longstocking robs a convenience store. I don't know
Pippi
what the fuck it was.
Longstocking assaults her roommate.
But I never saw. I was a young child when this came out, and I remember seeing the previews for it and being violently angry just by watching the previews. I've never read the books of Pippi Longstocking. I don't know. She's just some irritating red-haired girl with ponytails that stick straight out of the side of her head.
And long socks with stripes on them.
But apparently the actress who was in that movie assaulted her roommate, who was a male, and I guess was doing such a good job of it, he was screaming for help, and a neighbor broke up the altercation and then did a citizen's arrest on the actress. Her name, by the way, is... Where the fuck is it?
Not a big star, as you can tell by Brad's...
Tammy Aaron.
Being flummoxed.
38 now, lives outside of San Francisco. He put her under citizen's arrest and held her there until the cops came.
Well, I know I've always been fascinated by citizen's arrest ever since I was a child, because I once saw someone placed under citizen's arrest on an episode of The A-Team.
Oh, yes.
A fat black woman placed somebody under citizen's arrest who had apparently been menacing their neighborhood. The A-Team came in and took care of business. And I was taken aback by this, of course, because I assumed that police officers could arrest you. I understood that part.
Yeah.
I understand you would get arrested and then automatically go to jail, which apparently is my concept of what the law enforcement system at that time. But I didn't realize that you could just go up to someone and say you're going to place them under citizen's arrest and hold them there and I guess give them to the police later.
I had a similar formative experience in terms of citizen's arrest as well when I was watching an episode of the Andy Griffith Show when I was a little kid. And
you're a lot older than me.
No, it was obviously a rerun. That's the weird shit that TBS, that's all they played was episodes of the Andy Griffith Show when we were little kids.
Whatever what Turner was doing was really weird back then. Yeah. Remember him colorizing movies too?
Yeah.
It's weird.
But anyway, Gomer Pyle was angry at what's his name?
Barney Fife?
Barney Fife, for
who we
some
mentioned
reason.
in last week's podcast, I believe.
Oh, yeah. Strange. And he put him under citizen's arrest. I can't remember the circumstances involved, but I just remember him going, citizen's arrest!
I'm sure
citizen's arrest!
Barney Fife had probably slipped some date rape drug into somebody's drink.
And he ain't even know it. Next story, Jonathon Winters dead. Comic legend dies at 87. This is from Us Weekly. Warren and I both thought he already was dead.
There's a rash of these. I thought
it seems like any time we talk about an old actor or comedian who dies, you are shocked by the fact that they weren't already dead.
Alan Arkin was dead, and I was sure what's his name, Franklin Guerra or whatever his name is, was dead. And I was pretty sure Jonathon Winters was dead and had been dead for quite a while, but apparently he was alive until recently.
His career has been dead for quite some time.
Ooh, why did you say that now? Really?
All I knew him from was, again, watching reruns of Mork and Mindy on TBS, I think in between episodes of the Andy Griffith Show, and he was like a weird old man in a diaper, and I had no idea what was going on. I wasn't old enough to understand the sophisticated humor of the Mork and Mindy Show. Next story. Actor suing IMDb for revealing her age. Loses landmark lawsuit. Junie Hung wanted more than 1 million. I don't know how to pronounce that name. It's Vietnamese. Wanted more than 1 million from IMDb Pro website, claiming its revelation of her true age branded her over the hill. I'm looking at a picture here now. She doesn't look over the hill, but she is Asian.
And there's a picture of her next to a wall that says courtroom on it, so we know where she is.
The 42-year-old actor who claimed she lost out on movie roles after the Internet Movie Database published her real age has lost a landmark lawsuit against the website. We don't need to say that because it already said that in the headline for the story.
But in case you're wondering, the lawsuit was landmark.
Her real name was...
Excuse me? What?
Hong.
Yeah.
Who has appeared in such films as... This doesn't have the same films because it's not the same story.
Brad's sad that we can't exactly recreate the wonderful Celebrity Minute we did earlier that's lost forever.
There was something about The Cleaver, too, or something.
She's in some B movies.
She's in some horrible B movies, and now she thinks that her career is over because people know she's 42. I think the fact that she was in horrible B movies would be more detrimental to her career.
And I think it would be very detrimental to all of us and the internet in general if you can't print the truth on the internet.
Yes.
That would be pretty bad.
I'm glad that her frivolous lawsuit was thrown out, because what breach of contract is involved in a website that is not associated with her in any way printing the truth about somebody?
Yeah.
Printing, okay, these are the credits you have, these are the movies you've been in, this is your date of birth, this is your height, your weight, whatever.
Yeah.
If it were false information, then I could understand that you might have something there.
If they maybe had printed something on there about how she had, like, you know, killed a rare tiger or something.
Yes.
That would have hurt her career. But...
Well, hopefully... Hong.
Yeah. Who's that? What's that?
We'll go on to a fruitful career.
And hopefully she won't kill any rare tigers, and I won't have to use any tortured metaphors like that about her ever again.
Racist.
Is that racist? Because
she's Asian. She's killing tigers. Justin Bieber on Anne Frank. Ooh, that's a weird title, actually. Hopefully she would have been a believer. This is from Us magazine as well. Justin Bieber stopped by the Anne Frank House Museum in Amsterdam in the middle of his European tour on Friday, April 12th, and made sure to leave his mark at the historic landmark. He explored the house, was apparently quite moved by the by the story of the Frank family, and then at the end decided to write in the guest book. He wrote, "Truly inspiring to be able to come here. Anne was a great girl. Hopefully, she would have been a believer." People are, of course, annoyed by this.
because it's annoying.
I'm not offended. Who gives a fuck what Justin Bieber says? But it just points out once again that he has to insert himself into everything, including the Holocaust, including the murder of millions and millions of Jews during World War II.
It doesn't make any sense to him unless he can picture her as a believer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could imagine, I don't know, she's up there writing. Her family is eating their potato for the night. She's writing in her... they ate potatoes, didn't they? Probably
I don't know.
One potato.
I don't know. I didn't know how far you're going to go with this like tale
Maybe
of what they were up to. Eating their one potato.
Kind of bread with weevils or something in it. I don't know. They weren't eating steak, I can tell you that. Potato is reasonable. They were eating a potato. She was writing in her diary.
Yeah.
And suddenly Justin Bieber comes up through the trap door. A spotlight shines down upon him, and he starts singing a moving ballad to Anne Frank. A single tear appears in her eye, and she puts her pen down and starts swaying to the emotionally charged music. And I think that's the image that Bieber had in his mind.
He's just kind of spinning around
he wanted
through
to
the
touch
house,
her with
thinking
the
this.
love inherent in his music. I don't know.
I know that if Justin Bieber had been a big star in Berlin circa 1939... I feel pretty sure that Justin Bieber would have been very much
been featured in every like Riefenstahl propaganda movie, like marching with the SS.
At the like party congress in Nuremberg.
Yeah, wearing his little Hitler Youth outfit,
prancing
with his
around.
knickers.
Yeah. Yay, we did it! Go Germany!
He's got that weird blonde Hitler Youth pompadour thing going on right now. Anyway, it's kind of strange.
But yeah, you would think with all the publicists, all the people who are trying to manufacture his image, they could get him to shut the fuck up every once in a while. But we're glad they don't. We're glad that he is just so clueless that he has no idea what the hell he's doing.
This has been Celebrity Minute on the Warren and Bradley Show.
Okay, Warren, you sent me this rather strange story during the week.
Yeah, the girlfriend found this and was like, this has got to be on the Warren and Bradley Show.
Okay, this is from the Huffington Post. Ferrets sold as toy poodles. Argentina pet dealers reportedly selling weasels on steroids. Now, we've got a picture here that we'll post on warrenandbradley.com. We never give out our website. warrenandbradley.com is our website. If you want to get in touch with us, it's podcast at warrenandbradley.com or go to facebook.com/warrenandbradley. So if you want to see this picture, go to warrenandbradley.com. There's a picture of a toy poodle, and then juxtaposed with a
Looks
picture.
like a fucking weasel with a blonde afro or something.
Okay, I have owned ferrets.
Yes.
In my life, I never had a albino or white one that could look like a toy poodle if it had been given steroids. I want to think that this is some kind of weird April Fool's joke, but it was posted on the 8th of April. But it has like this crazy afro. I don't know. Ferret's hair doesn't get that long.
You have to be pretty dumb not to be able to tell the difference between a poodle and a ferret on steroids.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Let's get into the story.
They're not
here.
the same.
Apparently, Argentinian bizarre salesmen are passing off ferrets on steroids as toy poodles, and people believe them. A local news report out of Buenos Aires caught the attention of the Daily Mail and other sites this week after a man took the toy poodles he bought at the La Salada market to a veterinarian, only to find out that it was actually a giant weasel. Selling what Argentinians call a Brazilian rat, a ferret given steroids at birth to increase its size and then groomed, isn't a rare occurrence, the site reports, but this particular story, aired in June 2012, apparently confirmed the urban legend that these freaky ferrets are sold at the popular market. The victim paid $150 per poodle. Another woman told the Buenos Aires station that she was tricked into buying what she thought was a chihuahua, but that was also a ferret. It's unclear where the enhanced ferrets are today.
A ferret's also a nice pet, though.
Yeah.
Would you be that bummed out?
Well, you've got to imagine if they've been given steroids since birth that they've got a little roid rage going on, a lot of bacne.
Oh, yeah.
Their testicles have probably shriveled. I just don't know. I want to know how big, because you can't tell the relative size of the toy poodle and the ferret, because they're not next to each other. There's just two different pictures. I want to know how big these ferrets are. I want to know how they teased their hair out to this insane degree. This picture is hilarious, though. We'll definitely have to post this online.
It's a strange kind of fraud, really.
I want this story to be true. I don't know if it definitely is true.
It seems like, it does seem like it can't be true, but then again, people can be stupid.
It's just weird based on where it takes place. Like, if this had happened in London or something, I probably wouldn't believe the story. If it happened in Florida, I probably would believe the story.
Yeah.
And Buenos Aires, I don't have a lot of frame of reference for Argentina. So I'm like, maybe. Maybe they're stupid. I don't know. But I have to say, even when I had ferrets, the average person was ridiculously uninformed about what it was. I would
Like, they didn't know what a ferret was?
No, which is strange, because I know that I'm biased because I've owned them in the past, but I would think that most people would be able to see a ferret and know what it was. I would take mine to the park sometimes, and she'd be in her little harness, and I'd have her like staked out on her leash, and she would run around.
What a nerd.
She was cute. And
No, I'm
would
not
come
talking
up-
about her.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, people would come up. Is that a marmot? You know what a marmot is? You can pull marmot out of your ass, but you don't know ferret. There was one famous incident when I lived in Los Angeles and lived in an apartment, and there was supposed to be a maintenance guy coming to paint my door that day.
Yeah.
And I was home from work. I had the day off from work that day, and I had my ferret running around in the house. Knock comes on the door. Open the door, and there's a Hispanic gentleman there with his little paint can. He's going to paint the door, and suddenly my ferret, Loki, starts running towards the door to see who this person is. The guy goes, "Aye!" screams at the top of his lungs and says, "Raton grande! Raton grande!"
Oh.
Giant rat.
Yeah.
It's obviously not a rat. And if it were a giant rat, why would I be having it running around my house? And then I picked him up. I was like, it's fine. It's a ferret. And he still refused to come into the apartment after seeing it.
Really?
Yeah.
If you saw a rat like that, though, that would be pretty scary.
It's really long compared to its width.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, that would be a really fucked up rat, and I would run away from it.
A rat with a little raccoon mask who has a very long, flexible spine and who comes and had a collar on and comes when it's called.
Yeah, what we take for granted as, like, common knowledge, though, is... I always assume...
Oh, I'm always disappointed by common knowledge, or what I assume people should know and they don't know. It's always very, very depressing.
It's surprising sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, I would assume, like, if I was having a conversation with someone and I brought up a ferret, I wouldn't feel like I have to stop and, like, explain what the ferret was. At what point do you have to start, like, tell somebody what a giraffe is? Everyone knows what a giraffe is, but not everybody knows what a ferret is?
I find myself altering my conversation style a lot of the times, depending on who I've been conversating with on a daily basis. You know, I'll be saying, like, and then the pig, a barnyard animal often used for meat, and then people, okay. And you have to, like, actually insert these things into your sentence, and then I'll be speaking to someone who has normal intelligence, and I'll start explaining, you know, what a motorized vehicle is, and then they get irritated because I'm treating them like idiots. But it's like it's hard to acclimate myself to my audience.
Yeah, and you don't want to, like, talk about a ferret and seem like you're trying to lord over your, like, highfalutin education, right?
Ooh, a ferret, la-dee-da.
Ferret, what's that, a long riot? Is that what you fancy pants call them? And it's like, it's a ferret. This isn't a really advanced thing to know. No. But I mean, I always expect the same thing where people, like, the way people operate in our society is they have just the amount of knowledge they need to get by.
They don't want anything extra in there. And I guess I can sort of relate to that because I've got a lot of just random shit floating around my brain that doesn't serve any purpose whatsoever.
No.
And I'm sure it could confuse things after a while.
But both of us are really into picking up random shit and thinking it's interesting, things that aren't very helpful to us.
I can't remember the names of women I've dated, but I'll remember just the most esoteric fact that has no bearing on my life.
Yeah, but really that's probably not the best way to use our brains.
Probably not.
The way that makes most sense is if we, like, you know, accumulate a bunch of knowledge about a certain subject matter that made us more marketable in the workplace.
But look where we are right now.
Exactly. It's stunning.
Oh, I want to get one of these things, though. We need to go to Buenos Aires. We need to get one of these steroid ferrets.
And they're like, poodle? And you're like, no, I want one of the fake ones. I want one of the ferrets.
He just has a very self-satisfied look on his face.
He looks evil.
I'm huge.
He looks like he's like, I'm going to deceive you.
Sodium makes you retain water. Oh, they never want to listen when you talk about the girls at work you hate. And when you actually feel like loving, all they want to do is masturbate. 'Cause that's what men like. Whoa, that's what men like.
You live?
Yes.
I guess that's what I'd like to hear from the producer.
Start talking, monkey boy.
So yesterday, I went to my girlfriend's mother's wedding.
Yes.
But of course, I had to meet a bunch of the girlfriend's family, who I'd never met before. And it was kind of awkward because it was like an older person's wedding.
Right.
So there weren't like young people there. It was a lot of people of like one generation older than me.
Okay.
And so I was like a kid at the wedding. All these people were taking pictures of like my girlfriend and my girlfriend's brother and me. They're like gathering around taking all these pictures, and I was like, "This is so weird." It was
because
like
you're young.
It was I couldn't figure it out at first. I was like, "It's like the paparazzi." Then I got to the reception, and there was like a band playing, and no one was dancing.
Oh,
and
so you had to lead everyone.
No. It eventually occurred to me when you go to a wedding, there's usually like kids run around, and they're doing crazy things, and everyone just watches the kids, and the kids go out and start dancing with each other, and that gets everyone else going. But it occurred to me that like I was one of the kids at this wedding, and my girlfriend was, and her brother, and people were like, look at these kids. But I had all these interactions with, like the aunts and all these, like, people, and they're, all the females are trying to get me involved, right? And like, oh, talk to me, really.
Why weren't there any kids of the old people there?
I don't know. It was a small wedding. Like, apparently only old people go to old people weddings, I guess. And they were, asking me and trying to get really involved and be really nice to me and yada, yada, yada. And that makes me really uncomfortable because I don't want to talk about myself. I just don't want to talk in general to people I don't really know very well. So I was like, okay.
That's a good thing you do a podcast.
Yeah, it makes me very nervous. And eventually when we got to the reception, I met the girlfriend's grandfather. Who just didn't give a shit and would just swear and would just laugh and would do whatever. And didn't seem to care that I was sitting there. And that made me much more comfortable. Right. I feel like the women were like, oh, what's happening? What are you doing? What's going on with you? Let's get you out here to do this. And I was like, can I please just sit here? And, and I'm sitting next to this old man, and he's just like, oh, this is bullshit, and stuff. And I'm like, this is much more normal. This is what I feel like I should be relating to people in this way. And I think it's true of like men and women. Women, when they meet each other or they're trying to get involved with each other, when they're trying to get to know each other, they compliment each other and they find out about each other's lives and they talk and they relate to each other and stuff like that. Whereas if you're meeting men, they crack jokes. They're just like, who gives a fuck? They don't try to like drag information out of you about your life. You just talk about whatever, you joke around and stuff. That makes me much more comfortable. And it gets back to the difference between the genders and just the way they talk to each other.
This is interesting. This is interesting for our That's What Men Are Like segment. The idea that men often relate to each other through insults. They socialize through good-natured ribbing. Crass, vulgar, often. What's the female equivalent? Is there a female equivalent? And what do you think it is about that way of relating that men enjoy so much, that puts us at ease? Because you are right. When you're in a situation with a bunch of strangers and people are pressing you for details about yourself, like, oh, what do you do? And blah, blah, blah. And I just, I don't know. I always feel uncomfortable. I don't really want to engage. But if some guy were to come up to me and be like, look at you.
Nice haircut.
Yeah. Hey, motherfucker. Well, I don't know about that.
Just like, I know what you're saying, though. Like, jesting around, like, haha, who cares? You know what I mean? That puts you at ease, right?
That's something very representational of men in general. Even good friends who've known each other for years, they're constantly ripping each other. Constantly ripping each other apart. And the equivalent exchange amongst females would result in hair pulling and slapping and crying. Men insult each other all the time. And I think in some ways, it's a weird thing I was kind of thinking of the other day, where men have, especially young men, have a lot of pent-up energy, a lot of aggression, a lot of dominant traits that are constantly bouncing off the walls. And men together could very easily lead to fights and disagreements and arguments, and sometimes do. We've all seen the drunken idiot frat boys like beating each other on the streets. And I think maybe this weird, we're going to constantly tear each other down kind of interaction that men have developed over the thousands of years that humans have been around is a response to that. It's a way of diffusing all that aggression and energy, where we're constantly keeping each other honest in a way, maybe. Like if your friend comes and he's got some fancy new shirt that he bought, and it's like, ooh, I bought this silk shirt and look at these paisley accents on it. Maybe it was 1994 or something. And he comes in and he's pleased with himself. And all his friends notice this shirt. It's not representational of what he would normally wear. But they can tell that he's pleased with it. So they immediately look like a fag in that shirt. And everyone starts ripping on the shirt.
And talking about the shirt for years. Beyond,
And a woman in that situation would be like, oh, and cry and scream and run out of the room. But the guy, I'm sure he's not thrilled that everyone's ripping on his shirt, but he takes it. And I think that kind of keeps us all on an even keel a little bit.
And the weird thing is, I feel like if a woman came into the room with a bunch of women and was wearing the weird shirt, all the women would praise the shirt, but then as soon as she left the room,
behind her back, look at that. Who does she think she's fooling? That's ridiculous. She can't pull that off.
And
she looks 10 pounds heavier.
Well, and that sort of like dynamic with people, I find that dynamic exhausting. The dynamic where you have to like keep up this pretense of like being like extremely polite and like trying to engage people and being like really happy all the time,
but
and stuff.
not meaning it.
Not meaning it just because you're trying to keep somebody else at ease or trying to make yourself look like you're at ease, rather than just being like, this is an awkward situation.
I'm totally fine with social niceties among strangers, but amongst friends, you know, if I were to come out amongst a group of my guy friends, and let's say I bought some like knee-high boots or something, and I was wearing these boots and like prancing around in my boots, you would need to be there to be like, you look like a fucking idiot. What the fuck are you doing?
Speaking of these knee-high boots, sometimes you fantasize about wearing these boots
but
around, and you're riding crop, and I make fun of you and mock you.
Exactly. And if I actually went to the point of buying those boots and wearing them around, I would need my male friends to mercilessly make fun of me. And then I would be like, well, maybe I'd say, fuck it, I don't care. But at least I don't have this weird inflated sense of my stylish ways and my knee-high boots as I prance about the city. I know that my friends have given me shit for it. It's a weird dynamic that I really enjoy. Sometimes it can be taken to extremes. I don't know what it's like to be female with female friends, obviously. But it seems really stressful sometimes. And men seem to just relate to each other on a much more... I don't know if it's more personal or less personal, but it's much less stress-filled.
Much less complex.
Yeah.
I think that's what it gets down to, right? Mm-hmm. My relationships with men, there isn't much going on. You know what I mean? It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
There isn't like a lot of like backbiting or weird things going on, or a lot of like people feeling like abandoned or like not being talked to enough or not being complimented on this, blah, 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 all that stuff. And I think that might just be the nature of being a man for the most part.
Yeah.
Is that stuff is something that's exhausting.
Yeah, and sometimes people, women especially, will point that out as an example of how men don't have the same sort of emotional depth that women do or something, but I don't necessarily think that's the case.
I completely disagree with that. It's like if you take a scenario and you pack it full of drama and then ridicule someone for not engaging in your drama, that's not them being insensitive or being lowbrow. Yeah. It's them being like, more in my opinion, as a man, I've noticed, I would say it's that person being like sane and not overreacting to things.
In the past, we've talked about female traits and male traits, and this is one of those things where I'm not saying it's better to relate to the people the way men relate to each other, but it does seem to result in much less confrontation, real confrontation. Like fights can erupt and violence and like outbursts of anger, but they go away so much quicker amongst men than they do with women, it seems like, because everything is so much more on the face of it. You're much more likely to tell your friends what you think. You're much more likely to be honest. And there aren't these weird broiling feelings hidden in the background and strange disappointments and backbiting. And I don't know. I remember in high school, I would have some female friends, people who I interacted with socially, and I would always hear about whatever girl was out for that particular week and why she was out and why everyone hated them. And there was just this Byzantine, crazy social structure going on. And I just remember at that young age just being so thankful that my friends were like, hey, asshole, how's it going? You'd be like, fuck you. Yeah. And everyone was, it was just so much easier. I can't imagine being a teenage girl. I would kill myself.
I recall that as a high schooler as well, going to like a dance or something. And I remember this is the first time this ever occurred to me. I don't know, but like a woman would come up or a girl would come up to the girls I was hanging out with and talk to them, and they'd have like this really like positive exchange and praise each other's appearance and stuff. And then that girl would walk away, and then they'd start like,
it's like
talking. And I was like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Why are you doing this?
Stand that bitch.
Yeah, all this stuff. And it's like,
or there would constantly be the thing of like, did you see that after this pleasant exchange?
Yeah.
Like, see what? Oh my God, did you see the way she was talking to me? That bitch. I can't fucking stand that bitch. And I was like, I don't want to be involved. I don't care. Or there'd be the thing where I would talk to a girl and then I'd be told by other girls that I wasn't allowed to talk to that girl because everyone hated that girl. Yeah. Where as far as I knew, they were all friends or they had been friends 5 minutes previous to all this going on. Yeah. Whereas you and I used to fight sometimes. Yeah. When we've known each other forever since the first grade. And we would have falling outs every once in a while and it would last like a recess. Yeah. It would be short and violent, not necessarily physically violent, but it would be like screaming and yelling. Yeah.
And then the next recess, it would be fine again.
Yeah.
And that seems to be kind of the pattern for male relationships.
Yeah. And I don't feel like I'm saying it's better or worse. I'm just saying that...
It's better for me, but I'm not a woman.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
We're males, right?
We are.
And I think this is a communication issue that happens sometimes.
Yeah.
Is that sometimes men won't get to this, like, place with women about these things because they just don't understand, and they're just like, why is this happening?
Well, what often happens as well is that since women don't usually relate to each other in that kind of insulting, ribbing sort of way that men do, sometimes men make the mistake of trying to relate to women in that way. So you'll be dating a girl or something, and you'll be like, look at your ass. It's fat and ugly. And the woman will cry and run away. And you have to realize you cannot relate to your girlfriend in the same way that you do to your male friends.
That's odd, isn't it?
Yeah, I do that. I enjoy jocularity. And sometimes I do attempt it with women, and usually with success, but sometimes I have some missteps and they get offended, and I don't mean anything by it.
No. Because you never, if you said something about somebody's ass, or about their hair, something you never, if it was really an issue, you wouldn't bring it up and insult them. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and the weird thing is too, though, that so many women talk about sense of humor as an important factor in whether or not they're attracted to a man, and how it makes them feel comfortable. And it's weird because that's the same thing that it does for men. Like, amongst men, us joking with each other makes us at ease. It makes us be able to relate to each other. So maybe women are getting that, but it's more from the male perspective towards them. Like, they don't get it from each other as much. I don't know.
It's complicated. Yeah. It's hard to say. Yeah.
So jocular, insulting,
fun-loving men.
Fun-loving, but we don't really mean it. That's what men are like.
Socks with khaki shorts. And on Sundays, instead of on the lawn, they like to eat hot wings, drink domestic beer, and watch endless stupid fucking sports. They're insensitive, so selfish too. We can't kill them all, so we'll just fucking have to fucking make do. Yeah. That's what men are like. That's what men are like. Talking about what men are like. Oh yeah.
Okay, I think that's enough time for the Warren and Bradley Show this week. This has been one of your hosts, Bradley Victor.
This is the other host, Warren Van.
Saying...
I got nothing.
It's the second week.
This has been the Warren and Bradley Show, brought to you by Warren Van and Bradley Victor. For podcast news and information, like the show on Facebook at facebook.com/Warren and Bradley. Follow the show on Twitter at Warren and Brad. Subscribe on iTunes and leave a review. For episode archives and episode pictures, go to warrenandbradley.com, and to contact the show, write to podcast@warrenandbradley.com.